The dead do not need our courage. They need our light. The dead do not need our judgment. They need our silence. The dead do not need our love. They need our watch. Walk ahead of them, daughter, as far as the lantern reaches. The road belongs to her. This is either an old prayer, an older poem, or a piece of half-forgotten scripture, depending on which Dratzenbergian you ask. Every member of the Fregil Shieldmaidens learns it before she's allowed to light her lantern for the first time, and every member, before her service ends, will have repeated it under her breath in some lonely cemetery in the small hours of the morning, with the temperature dropping and the dead, hopefully, staying where they were put. We will be talking about who these women are, where they came from, and how an organization founded by a grieving widow with a bow has become one of the most distinctive paramilitary orders on the Berisian continent. A short note on context first. The Dratzenbergians are a feline humanoid people who arrived on the Berisian continent from the northern continent of Tunland in the middle of the Second Age. They were exiled by their fellow clans for following the teachings of the prophetess Thalia and their worship of the One Above and his manifestations. 5 clans made the 4-month sea voyage south to Berisia, what is now today Dratzenberg. Of all of the manifestations of the One Above, the Dratzenbergians reserve their deepest affection for 2. Zeitmer, the manifestation of war, honor, and craftsmanship, and Fregil, the manifestation of exploration, ambition, music, and water. Fregil is also credited with creating the Luxon moths, small, bioluminescent insects considered sacred across the Empire. In Dratzenbergian theology, she is she who walks ahead, the lantern bearer, the goddess of the restless and the ambitious. The dead, in her tradition, are travelers. The grave is not a wall, but a coastline, and someone, naturally, has to stand watch at the harbor, and that someone, by a long tradition, is some orphan girl with a rifle. This order traces its origin to a single incident in the middle of the Second Age, not long after the migration from Tunland. A young settler named Velka lost her husband to exposure while he was out hunting in what is now County Vrymark. She buried him in a cairn and refused to leave his side. When 3 raiders arrived to rob the grave, she shot 2 of them with a bow and stabbed the 3rd to death. She held the cairn alone for 2 days against repeated attacks. And by the time her clanmates arrived, all of the bandits had been driven off. The grave was undisturbed, and Velka herself had died of exposure in the snow beside her husband. The Dratzenbergians, being who they are, took this as instructive rather than a travesty. The Fregil Shieldmaidens trace their founding to that vigil. The Order's highest decoration is called the Velka Star, and a song known as Velka's Last Night is traditionally hummed or sung when a Shieldmaiden dies. The modern Order is the only fighting force in the Dratzenbergian Empire that is composed entirely of women, and its members occupy a peculiar position somewhere in between clergy and gendarmerie. Recruits enter at 15, train for 2 years, and they may serve until 35, which, given Dratzenbergian aging, leaves them still very much young women when they retire. Recruitment draws almost exclusively from the orphaned, the impoverished, and the reformed juvenile criminal. Modern commentators tend to describe this as practical. These are the girls society doesn't know what to do with, and the Order gives them food, shelter, training, and purpose. This is true, but this misses the point. Fregil is the goddess of the restless. The girls who come to the Shieldmaidens are, almost without exception, girls who were already going somewhere. The Order does not teach them ambition. It teaches them what to do with the ambition that they have. Training is thorough. Recruits drill in saber and truncheon, learn marksmanship with both rifle and revolver, study monster anatomy, basic first aid, corpse safety, and, uniquely, receive formal instruction on how to approach and comfort someone whose relative had just risen from the dead. They must demonstrate adept knowledge of Thalian scripture, prayer, and incantation before they're permitted to take the oath. Any band of Eldra sensitivity is accepted, but those at band 2.5 or above tend to excel. A Shieldmaiden's standard kit consists of either a lever or bolt-action carbine, a service revolver, and either a silver-studded truncheon or a saber with a silver tip, depending on chapter tradition. The lantern is the Order's signature. It burns with a blue flame produced by a compound called MacLeod, a rediscovered formulation of silver nitrate and blessed substance. Originally used by the Dratzenbergian chapter of the Harrowed during the Years of the Beast, and modernized for current service. It has no effect on the living other than burning. However, against the undead and specters, the light forces them part way into the material world, where they can be shot. The lantern, of course, can be used as a very effective bludgeon. Each Shieldmaiden is also given the care of a single Luxon moth, a living one, not a sacred relic. It is, depending on the chapter, considered either a religious responsibility or simply an exercise in teaching young women how to keep something alive that's not themselves. The oath is taken at the lighting of her first lantern. She swears to watch over the dead, to carry the light, and to keep the secrets of the dead. She swears that the dead will remain dead, and in their final resting place. She swears to shine her light into the darkest of places. And she swears to never reveal what the dead leave behind, except where criminal or religious investigation requires it. In practice, this means standing watch 4 nights a week in the Empire's many necropolises, where many are buried with personal possessions of considerable value. Grave robbers are dealt with on sight. The state then deals separately with anyone foolish enough to be captured rather than shot, a process best described as a strong argument for being shot. The Order also fights the Sjochgander, a strain of undead created from the corpses of victims of the Vryholm flu, a pandemic that killed roughly 3.5 million Dratzenbergians in the year 187 of the Fifth Age. The plague is decades over. The Sjochgander, however, are not. The Order is not without its critics, including from within. Some chapters have, over the years, been, notably, trigger-happy, and the shoot-on-sight policy has produced its fair share of wrongful deaths. Some Shieldmaidens, particularly those who entered through juvenile courts pipelines, have quietly questioned whether the institution is genuinely redemptive, or whether it's simply a way for the Empire to put its difficult girls somewhere statistically likely to handle the problem on its own. The Order was disbanded once in the middle of the Fourth Age by the Congregation of Tirzite when they were in power, but it was immediately reinstated after the Reclamation War, and has not been seriously challenged since.